This is Rich Volz, the IASA Associate Director, and I'm at Lemont School District, Old Quarry Middle School, and I have Shirley Kleehammer here, who is the Assistant Principal at the middle school. So, Shirley, would you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm the Assistant Principal at the middle school. It's a 6th through 8 middle school. We have approximately 800 students here at the middle school. As the Assistant Principal, I am responsible for evaluations, discipline. I'm also the Athletic Director of the school, and the other duties that apply to an Assistant Principal. So this is finishing my 5th year.
Well, my biggest question really revolves around all those duties that you have. Mm-hmm. So how do you find time? Your school district does a great job of doing a lot of teacher observations. Mm-hmm. Many building level administrators say they just can't find the time to do it. So how are you and your colleagues able to find the time to do the observations?
Well, you just have to make the time. You set it in your calendar and you have to just follow through with the observations. So we limit the observations to 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes for an informal observation, and it's doable. You just have to get yourself out there and make that commitment to do it.
So am I correct in saying that your district requires 8 observations per teacher?
Yes, this past year was 8 observations informals per teacher, and this coming year the para committee decided that we do 6 to 8 per teacher. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what part of the IASA process have you found to be most beneficial for the teacher evaluation?
Well, the day that we visited classrooms with you, we focused on certain components or domains, and I felt that part of the process was very beneficial, because prior to that I would go into a classroom and do an informal observation and just observe just what was going on in the classroom and not focus on any specific aspect. And I think focusing on a certain domain really makes the conversation that you would have afterwards with the teacher more productive. So you really are focusing on something and you're tying it to the Danielson framework, and it's part of that improvement process that's so important.
When you go into a classroom for informal observations, are you now focusing more on a particular domain and component each time you go in there versus the all-in kind of approach you were describing?
Yes, absolutely. So what we will do is we'll focus on specific attributes in a certain domain and go into the classroom, observe, talk to the students, ask them what they're learning, and then afterwards leave the classroom, jot notes down, and then would send off the observation.
So does that differ at all when you're doing the formal versus the informal observation?
I think it will be different, yes, because the formal observation really is encompassing both 2 and 3, and so I think it's important that you're kind of looking at a whole class from beginning to end, and so you do have to look at more than one component or one domain. So
what do teachers say about the administrators being in their classrooms often?
Well, actually, that actually came from the teachers. They really wanted the administrators in their classrooms as often as possible so that their formal observation was an accurate representation of their teaching practices. And so it really came from the teachers that they'd like to see evaluators in the classroom more often.
So being in there and observing and then having a discussion with the teachers, either via words or face-to-face, how has this initiated change in teacher behavior?
Well, I think the teachers are less weary or less, maybe less suspicious of an observation. It's not like it's a getcha kind of observation. This is really about best practices and how to improve the practices in the classroom. So I think the teachers are definitely open to that. And it's great to see that it's not a fight, it's not a struggle, it's really a conversation, and it's really about being open and honest about what's going on and how can we improve that together.
So this whole training with IASA, what's kind of been the biggest change maybe in your own performance towards teacher evaluation compared to prior to the training?
Well, I think there is a couple of things. Number one is the focus in the informal observations. I think that's been a big change for me. And the other change is the reflective piece after the observation. Prior to the training, we did send out the script that we had from the informal observation and maybe ask a question. There might have been some conversation, but there wasn't much, and the training really focused on how you need to follow up with the teacher, have a conversation, have a face-to-face conversation, and have some closure. And there needs to be some reflective discussion, and I think that's a huge piece. Without that piece of reflective discussion and that dialogue, that improvement process really stalls. So I think that's a really key component.
Okay, and as far as the training is considered, would you recommend this training and the coaching to other building level administrators?
I would recommend this because I think it really will streamline the process of the informal observations and really focus on specific components that need to be discussed and need to be evaluated in the classroom.
Okay, thank you, Shirley, for participating in this interview process.
You're welcome.